Development Minister Lindiwe Zulu has been heckled continuously today by opposition MPs during a virtual debate in Parliament on her department's adjusted budget. Amid reports of stolen food parcels and long waits for relief grants, they say she's failed the country's most vulnerable during the COVID-19 pandemic. This comes on the back of President Cyril Ramaphosa's announcement last night that those who corrupt the social relief system will be prosecuted. Now, Minister Zulu says discussions are underway to determine whether the 350 Rand social assistance grant can be extended beyond the 6-month relief period.
I believe in what the President said yesterday, and will do everything in my power, first as a minister, but also in the department, to make sure that the department adheres to that.
Are you also going to be subject to breaking the law?
I agree with Honourable Seken that social development should become one of our war heroes and foot soldiers, extending the reach to social services across the country. I also agree that we are working hard on ensuring the eliminating of systemic failures. And again, I have said, you're
the queen of systemic failure.
The 350 that we've been talking about, we have already paid more than 4 million recipients have received the money, and those that did not receive their money in May and June, they've already received their money in 700 rands, which is for both months. That's why I'm saying opposition must not come here and behave like they are
Why did you stop people getting hot food?
You must contribute to the well-being of our people. We will also ensure that procurement
your own well-being. And your own well-being.
And SMS.
Food parcels since April.
We also, quite frankly, you guys.
This feels like 2 hours.
You have nothing else to do but to shout and scream.
We learned from you.
We follow your example because you are doing that in Parliament. We are just following your example, Minister. We follow your example. Honourable Member.
Your example. You set the example.
Well, a little later in the programme, we will be speaking to Minister Zulu. Let's move now to the story, cutting violent crime in half within the next decade. The target set by the President for the South African Police Service. But Police Minister Cele says the lockdown has presented the service with new challenges. Top of mind, however, when Cele presented his adjusted budget to Parliament today, was the ongoing battle against gender-based violence. Lindsay Dentlinger reports.
Policing a lockdown. The Police Minister says it's meant the constant shifting of goalposts between law enforcement and the respect for civil liberties. It's also redefined visible policing.
It is in this context that our policing discipline becomes more critical in ensuring that our fight against COVID-19 is both constitutionally compliant and consistent with the public good.
More than 10,000 officers have either been infected or affected by COVID-19. 95 officers have died. Police academies are now being converted into quarantine facilities for officers and their families. The lockdown has once again put gender-based violence in sharp focus.
The tide must change on how we respond on GBV matters. The victims of GBV should not be the ones forced to flee their homes to seek places of safety. It's a time that perpetrators of the victims must be taken away from their homes and the victims must stay in their homes.
15 million rand has been set aside to bolster the police's response to gender-based violence, including the recruitment of more female police officers. Lindsay Dentlinger, Cape Town.
And as you heard a little earlier, the Department of Social Development has presented its adjusted budget in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. The department has been able to assist 3.3 million poor people during this period. But of course, as we heard earlier this week from charities Oxfam and Gift of the Givers, the need is growing. And there are estimates that if something urgent is not done to address hunger globally, there will be 12,000 deaths a day worldwide, due to hunger by the end of the year. Gift of the Givers telling us they have never seen such desperate need in all their 28 years. Well, I'm joined now by the Social Development Minister, Lindiwe Zulu. Good evening, Minister. First of all, I just want to comment on the virtual heckling. I didn't hear much. Did something productive come out of that very garbled Zoom argument that occurred today?
Well, I mean, let me just put that straight. The heckling started long after I had presented the real budget. I had an opportunity to present the budget as to the allocations and everything. I did that. So anyone who listened earlier than that would have been able to follow. The heckling started later.
Right. How far will your adjusted budget take you in reaching the desperately hungry? This is the real issue, isn't it?
That's the real issue, not only for South Africa, as you said, that's the real issue for the entire world. But let me tell you, what we have done, particularly as a government, as led by President Cyril Ramaphosa, you will realize that the President made announcements of increasing the already existing social grants which are given to the children, to the elderly, and to all. Those were increased, and that was the most immediate support for social development. But on top of that, the President also announced the 350, which we have been paying since the beginning of May, and we will end up paying in October. Thirdly, we have also been distributing food parcels under the social relief of distress that is handled by SASSA, but also the department. And quite frankly, that program, we budget for it every year, but this time around, the increase for the social relief of distress is massive, as you rightfully say, that the Gift of the Givers and Oxfam are saying what they're saying. So the social relief of distress is beyond what we normally do when we have fires or we have floods or we have people that are really in a bad shape. We've upscaled that as a Department of Social.
When I spoke to Gift of the Givers earlier this week, they told us of an area in the Eastern Cape, Pedi. They said children there are foraging for wild plants. They are so hungry. People crying from hunger on the telephone. Barely any food parcels have reached the people of Pedi. Do you feel like you're failing when you hear stories like that?
It's not a failure. I don't stand up and do anything with failure in my head. That I can tell you.
But it must. What is your response? It must be heartbreaking.
Allow me to finish what I'm saying. We never do everything we do for purposes of failure. But where we see that there is a weakness in our system has not reached people. Like you are saying now, you're telling me about the people of Pedi. This is what we do as a department. We focus on ensuring that the provinces take responsibility through the MECs for social development. The local structures take responsibility. And where we feel they have not done that, we come in to intervene. You're speaking to me about the people of Pedi. As soon as I drop this line with you, I'm going directly to talk to whoever is relevant to tell me what exactly is happening. That's what I do. That's what we do as social development.
That is great to hear for the people of Pedi, but we know it goes beyond that. Oxfam, as we mentioned earlier, identifying South Africa as what they call an emerging COVID-19 hunger hotspot. They are very concerned. I'm sure you are as well. Is there a coordinated plan? There's suggestions that it's not falling together properly. I would imagine that that is your big task. Tell us more about it.
Yes, we did not wait for anyone to tell us about our own country and the challenges that we face in our country. It is for this reason, for instance, that President Cyril Ramaphosa said from the very beginning, we've been using system for the past 25 years, some of which are not adequate to reach our people. Hence, his call for us to work a district development model. This district development model is helping us because it makes us to identify the hotspots, not just about COVID, but also about hunger. It helps us to understand what is happening in each and every district. And that's why President Cyril Ramaphosa also has made sure that there are champions who are directly, as ministers and deputy ministers, he's giving us the responsibilities for all of us to be responsible for all those districts. The issue of hunger and poverty in South Africa, it's an old age issue which has got something to do with the structure of South Africa, of the economy. Hunger unemployment, inequality is something that we ourselves have been talking about, but we went beyond just talking about it. We've been trying to put systems in place that can be able to respond to this. And I can tell you right now, they are not adequate. And especially because of COVID-19, they are not adequate. But having said that, the reason why we work with other people to support us, just this afternoon, I was in Johannesburg with the MEC for Social Development to receive a food that is being donated and being taken to a food bank. Because the other problem we have is when food is available but not properly distributed. So if food, and we have the food banks all over the country, we can be able to properly coordinate. Even those that are donors, they are going to be able to hold us accountable when they bring the food to the center in all the regions and the food is therefore distributed. So we are in this, we're going to work together, all of us, to get out of this.
Minister, it must be absolutely infuriating to be trying to put systems in place and then to hear about corruption, about people siphoning off money or siphoning off food parcels for their own ends. We heard a strong message from the President last night saying he will not tolerate it. Fear, of course, that it's just words. We have not seen enough prosecution for corruption. What is your view on this issue? What do you want to see? What is your message to those who are infiltrating the systems of support and care and using them for their own ends?
As the President said, we fully support what the President said yesterday. But I think what is even good is the fact that the President went a step further. He just didn't talk about it. He said, I have directed the Auditor General, and everybody knows in South Africa that the Auditor General in South Africa cannot be swayed by anybody. When he finds something wrong, he finds something wrong. And he goes and says it in public. So the President has already said to us, the Auditor General will come to you before you even finish implementing what you're doing, because the Auditor General must hold us accountable. I have a meeting, for instance, on Monday with the Auditor General's office, specifically to look at what systems do we have that the Auditor General can look into. The Auditor General is already posing questions to us already, long before the end of what we are implementing. That's the first thing. The second thing, the President spoke to the SIU and said he's already giving them the authority to do what they need to do. They have to do what they have to do. And therefore, the few people who get involved in corruption, because I also do not want us to demoralize the rest of the civil service, people who wake up in the morning and do the best that they can, only to find that amongst them you'll find a few people who do wrong. They must not be demoralized. They must be the ones that report so that due process can take place. But last, corruption is a two-way process. Can we also deal with the people who keep on coming and wanting to go the other way?
Absolutely.
It's a two-way process.
No, I'm not disputing that at all. I have a follow-up question, though. And you're right, it takes the person who offers the bribe, the person who takes the bribe. Absolutely, and without a doubt, all of it needs to stop. Concerns that it's not just a few dodgy people who we need to root out of the system, but it's entrenched, it's endemic. What do you think?
If it's endemic, we have to deal with it. I did say earlier on in another interview that as South Africans, we are building institutions of governance. In order for you to strengthen the institutions of governance, it means you must find better systems that can be able to not enable people to go even that route. If we need to have less of people who have to shuffle paper, push paper up and down, and you use technology and other things to make sure that things go right, so be it. Let's do that. Let's spend a lot working with the Minister Stella Ndabeni-Abrahams to use technology. Here's a simple issue. For us to pay the 350, for instance, to the grant recipient, nobody touched anything. Everything went through technologically. The application, the processing, and finally up to the paying. There was nobody who had to be in between to push the paper this way or push the paper that way. I am of the view that this is the time for us to really invest in technology, in making sure that we cut out people who in the middle take their long time to push a document because they want something for that document. It's possible. Technology is here. It can also help us. But lastly, it's about people who see it happening, reporting it, people who see it happening, not waiting for too long until it's late for us to do that. The President said we are committed to dealing with corruption. We are committed to doing that, but we are aware of the fact that it's not something that you can easily get rid of because there's human beings in between. While you're waking up in the morning and trying to fix things, other churches are waking up to do otherwise in that.
Thank you very much for your time this evening. Social Development Minister Lindiwe Zulu speaking to us about corruption in the system, the money that is available hopefully to deal with the incredible hunger that we are seeing.